Am I silly, or is it ridiculous for me to expect my 9-year-old son, moderately autistic or not, to be in a totally different place than the one that I find myself in? I don't think that's so amazing or surprising a thing. I think you should pretty much expect that that's the case. And that's why I wanted to talk about the idea of absolute truth and human differences today on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Tuesday, the 28th of September of 2021. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. And again, today we're going to talk on the subject of absolute truth and human differences. I'm going to go ahead and go through my notes real quick, and this should give you some idea what my starting point is for the video. In a previous video, I made the point that perspective can make all the difference in the world. That's especially true when we're talking about the difference between man's vantage point and God's. It doesn't take a mental dynamo to understand that God's way of looking at things is perfection, where man can make no such claim. Even when the Creator presents plain truth in a way that man should understand it, you can be sure we will fail. Each of us will grasp some part or parts of that truth. We'll also fail dismally where other components are concerned. That is to be expected. Frankly, in my way of thinking, this is part of the reason humility among humans is so very important. Chances are exceptionally good others will get things I don't. Granted, it's likely to be true in reverse, right? That means I will get things that they don't. In the end, I think it's entirely reasonable to assume I'm wrong at least as often as I'm correct. And I want to say, in fact, I do say, fact is, it's probable most of us seldom get things perfectly correctly, right? That just doesn't happen. And it hardly ever happens. Does any of this mean absolute truth doesn't exist? It's really even pretty silly to pose the question. Have you seen the meme that says, I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you or make you understand it? If God wears t-shirts with slogans on them, and I'm not intending to be flippant, he sure has a right to put that one on. I'm not God. My understanding will be flawed. If we start from there, it should be easy to understand the differences between me and God. It also helps to explain why I differ with other human beings. Okay, done with my notes. Let me get myself all nicely set up here so that I don't have to do a lot of work later on. Again, I have a 9-year-old autistic son, and you can bet that mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, in so many ways, my son is in hugely different places than my own. Nobody should be surprised by that. I hope I have a better understanding of absolute truth than he does. I hope I do. Can I say with any certainty that that's the case? No, I really can't. And I have to say that if you had a line like a number line that showed how close you were to absolute truth, and you put me and him on the line, our places on the line probably would not be that much different, particularly by comparison to where God is at the very end of that line, having complete and total knowledge or understanding of absolute truth, right? So we're not really that different, my son and I. And frankly, I and a person with an 80 IQ may not be all that much different either. The thing that you need to understand, though, is this. You've got a bunch of people out there who are selling the idea that there either is or isn't absolute truth, and they're selling the idea, if there is, that maybe they're a little closer to it than a lot of other people. Let me help you to understand something. I can posit some ideas of what I think about absolute truth, but the reality is I have a very limited set of the whole. That's just how it is. And I'm going to tell you something. The very most intelligent, very most versed person on planet Earth is not much different in their position than I am in mine. That doesn't mean I don't put them ahead of me potentially in how they see things. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. But the point is, if I do, I'm not putting them so far ahead of where I am as to assume that they are in a place a whole lot closer to understanding absolute truth than am I. Are there beings that understand absolute truth better than me? Well, I certainly would say there are. There's God, right? And he understands, he knows absolute truth. He understands how it works. In fact, he basically, as far as I understand it, is the author of it. So he couldn't not know it. Is that true for the angels? I don't know. If you believe in angels, and I do, is that true for the angels? I couldn't tell you. You know, who among man has a better grasp of absolute truth? Absolutely no idea. I can make some guesses, I can do some estimation, I can come to some potential conclusions about what I think, but if you ask me to prove who is closer to absolute truth, that would require me to have a knowledge of absolute truth in and above, over and above those other people, so that I could pick, okay, this one is closer, that one is closer. It's like you put that Easter egg out there in the yard and you say, okay, kids, go find the Easter egg. You're getting warmer, you're getting warmer, you're getting warmer. The only way that you can tell them they're getting warmer is you know where the Easter egg is. So this idea of other people espousing absolute truth as if they know it better than I do, well, it's an interesting idea, but I have to tell you, I don't see it as being highly likely. I just don't see that as being the case. That's not to say that nobody understands absolute truth better than I do. All I'm telling you is just because a person says, I get it, I know, I'm sure I'm right, doesn't mean that he is. Doesn't mean that she is, right? It's okay for them to say that if they want to do so. I believe that I'm closer to absolute truth than others. And let's just be clear. We want for that to be the case for us, right? I want to be closer to absolute truth than others. That doesn't mean I am, though. And like I say, in terms of the differences between men and absolute truth, well, you know, I try to be a person who tries to be closer to absolute truth whenever I talk about things and work on things. But the fact of the matter is, there are people out there who almost certainly have that better than I do. And I know, like I say, all I have to do is look to God, and there's an example of somebody who has absolute truth in a way that I cannot comprehend. That's just a reality. So what I'm trying to get across here is really pretty simple. The fact that there are human differences in understanding of absolute truth doesn't mean, A, that there's not an absolute truth, and it doesn't mean, B, that people are intentionally being corrupt in what they're doing. Now, let's be fair. I'm sure there are some people who are corrupt in what they're doing, who are trying to do things that they ought not do, that are wrong, that are mistaken, and I get that. But my point is to say, firstly, that my understanding of absolute truth is not necessarily better than anybody else's, and secondly, that nobody else's understanding of absolute truth is necessarily better than my own. Now, if you start talking about Jesus Christ, I start to talk about Jesus as part of the three parts of God that most people recognize, and I go, yeah, okay, he probably had an understanding of absolute truth that was well beyond my own. Was it God level? I guess. I'm not smart enough to understand how that worked. You know, you look at that and I go, gee, I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. But what I do know is this. Other people trying to sell you on the idea that their perspective where absolute truth is concerned is better than your own, you listen, you pay attention, but that doesn't mean you just assume that they're correct and stick it in your pocket as proper and right. That's just not how that works. The way that works is we learn, we go on, we learn, we go on. And again, we have people in different places. We have people who understand things differently. Paul makes it clear that eating meat sacrificed to idols is not a thing if you don't worry about, if you don't care that it was sacrificed to idols and it doesn't matter to you and it isn't important, right? But on the other hand, that there are people out there who cannot see that and not stumble as a result of what you're doing. That's the way I would put it. So the point is, we're in different places. That's why there are differences in how we see, why the human differences in how we see absolute truth. But there is an absolute truth, and that's an important thing to consider and an important thing to realize. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Tuesday, the 28th of September of 2021. That means tomorrow will be Wednesday, that middle of the week, 29th of September of 2021. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. There I am with welcome again. Welcome, as I say, you're welcome to have come along, and that's definitely a thing. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform where I would rather you watch me. You can give me a plus or a boxing glove or a positive feedback on Rumble. You can give me a minus or a negative feedback on Rumble. You can give me a thumbs up, a like, a positive feedback on YouTube. You can give me a thumbs down, a dislike, a negative feedback on YouTube if you want to do that. You can comment on any platforms where comments are available, and I will do everything that I can to pay attention to the comments that are made that would beat the junk that is probably my primary comment most of the time. The subject for today has been absolute truth and human differences, and tomorrow we're going to talk about another sort of COVID-19 related subject, but not necessarily entirely so. It's going to be entitled Slaying the Dragon. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you. We're moving ever closer to that weekend, though obviously we've still got those 3 days to go. I hope to see you again on tomorrow's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Tuesday, September 28th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.